Squirrel.
Okay, good evening, everybody. Today is Tuesday, May 4th. May the 4th be with you. The time is 6:34 p.m. and I'd like to call this school committee meeting to order. Okay, first up is our consent agenda. Has everyone had a chance to read the minutes and what was in there? I'm gonna go with yes. Do we have any comments or adjustments to the minutes as they stand?
I just won't be voting because I wasn't here.
Okay. So we can, if there's nothing else, then we'll just go ahead. Can I have a motion? Can I have a motion? I'll make a motion. Can I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Objections? Abstentions? All right, so just Audrey abstains. Next up is visitors' comments. Do we have any, even any attendees?
Good.
Okay. Any citizen wishing to speak before the committee must sign in with the administrative assistant prior to the opening of the regular session of the school committee. The visitor will identify themselves by name and address and shall speak for no longer than 3 minutes. Okay, do we have any comments today? We'll give it a minute. Seeing none, we'll move on. Next is the check-in with GEA President Cheryl Burnett. She and I emailed, and she doesn't feel that she has anything that would be beneficial to add at this moment. So we'll have to have, she and I will have an offline discussion to see if this is something that we will continue to do. I have my own thoughts on it. I would like to see this be a way for us to kind of get some conversation going, but I think maybe on the wrong track on that. Is Marcus with us?
No.
Okay, moving on. Continuing business. Wow, we are going to be done in no time. Carol, reopening planning process and safety committee updates.
So we welcome back the high school students. They're making some adjustments. All of a sudden now the hallways are full. It's great. Also spring sports is off to a good start in our local bubble, and coaches are excited to play even though it's a short season. Health and safety did meet. Interestingly, we had asked Dick Bombardier about vaccination in the community, and he was able to identify that there is on the COVID link a link that you can click, and it lets you know the percent of community members being vaccinated. And we're seeing the 65-year-old and older are at about 80% in the community. And then 50% is about age group around 50. So we are seeing, the community getting vaccinated, which is good news. Nancy Jenks talks a little bit about our staff that she's aware of that are vaccinated. Currently, she believes there's 67 staff that are fully vaccinated. And then there's another 18 that she is aware of that have received their first shot. I'm sure that number is growing, and we do encourage them to share that information with her so that, when she's doing contact tracing, she knows who has been vaccinated and who hasn't. We've had a pretty good month of, low numbers of cases. In April, we had only 2 cases of students at East Meadow and 1 student at Granby Junior Senior High School. So that was pretty exciting news. So that's it for reopening and safety committee.
One question that I had is, are we keeping track of students that are getting vaccinated? Can we ask, or do we know? Does it matter?
I can certainly ask Nancy about that.
She's on.
Is Nancy, I don't think, is she on?
She's on. Welcome aboard.
Okay, great.
I don't think we can ask that.
Well, no, she'll just speak to it.
Just, I don't think we can ask numbers. Nancy, are you there?
Yep, can you hear me?
Yeah. So I'm
Okay,
wondering, are you, is it like the flu where you're just keeping records if you find out, or is it being reported to you if students are getting it? So I'm just curious.
so if students are willing to share, including parents, if they want to let us know that their kid's been vaccinated, we are documenting it. I know of 2 already, actually, no, excuse me, let me correct myself. 3 that I know of that have at least gotten their first dose. 1 of the 3 has already completed their series. So we know that they're starting to. It's not required right now, but kind of like the flu vaccine, we found out at the last minute in August from the state. So I'm not sure what that might look like in the future, especially with it being kind of controversial. So we'll have to kind of wait and see. But if families are willing to share if they're getting their students who are 16 or over vaccinated, that would be great. And down the road, as the studies come out and they start approving for the younger children, same thing, we would encourage that as well. It just helps us have an idea of what's going on in the community, and then also helps us with contact tracing. Depending on a person's vaccination status will determine next steps.
So they would just reach out to you or to their appropriate school nurse if they want to share that information?
Yes.
Okay, great. That's good to know. Does anyone have any other questions for Nancy? Any questions for Carol on where we are with reopening? I feel like we need to call it something else because we're open now.
Yeah, I was gonna say, isn't everybody back?
So what do we think? Do we need to keep this on or rename it going forward, just like status updates on where we are? I don't know, because I feel like we are open. We've got we don't have 100% of the population in, but
I guess that would be a question that I would have is, how many kids do we still have working remotely? I know that we talked about how that was gonna look. I'd be curious to know how it actually does look. Is it what we thought? Is how, and maybe not for this meeting, but.
Yeah, I can get you the numbers
But it'd
for
be nice
next
to
meeting.
know, how is that working? I'd like to hear a little bit about how instruction's being delivered, and just some information about that.
Also, another question is on, we're open on Wednesdays, right? There's no more, okay.
you're back 100%. So I was just wondering, I like that, just kind of an update on where we are. Is there anything else that we feel like we need to open or close the loop on, or just kind of make sure we're touching on as far as like the reopening status of everything?
Right now, it would just be the students that are,
Students and staff, I guess, right? Because we still have some staff that are remote.
Yes.
Okay, so just kind of an update on where we are with that and how it's going, and just kind of an update for next time.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
I'm trying to think of what else we could call it other than reopening planning process, but.
well, then it would just be remote. Those that are in remote, because
Well, I think maybe we just keep it reopening, because then it's the thread, we've been pulling on this thread the whole time, that now I've had a minute to chew
I
on
do
it.
have a further question.
Sure.
I feel like I've been hearing rumblings, and I don't know if you've heard further, Carol, about next year and whether or not remote is still on the table for next year. Have you heard any rumblings?
So it's my understanding that the commissioner is removing it as an
That was my
option.
understanding as well, but more recently
I've heard that some districts are kind of like Teka has a remote. Some districts, I think, are going to pilot a remote school.
and the commissioner is going to allow that, or those?
I'm not sure where those conversations have
How many
gone.
students do we have in general before the pandemic, I guess, that even used that? I guess that would be some interesting information to have.
Not many.
So,
I would say it's less than 5.
so that goes to what I had asked at the last meeting about the remote for like blizzard bag days and everything else. Like, you know, the guidance that we've been hearing is that that's all going away, and if there's no school, there's no school. But so, you know, I still feel like that's something that's, I want to kind of keep on our radar, because I know there was mixed feelings about the blizzard bags, but we've gotten to a whole new level with remote learning, so, you
Well, I'd
know.
be curious to hear what families think about blizzard bags, because I think there is that piece where kids do and parents, and it seems like it's part of childhood of having a snow day.
Two in the
So-
Northeast. So, and a lot of other places, they don't ever have a snow day,
Right.
so, you know, it's, they don't, school's not necessarily canceled.
Right, yeah, but they have hurricane and stuff like that. I mean, like, so that kind of stuff does happen, you know, so I would be interested to hear, you know, if we got that feedback from families.
Well, I know initially, so I've been on school committee through the the pilot of it and everything else, and initially it was a hot mess. But now we've gotten almost a whole year of remote learning under our belt, and I think the teachers are more comfortable with it, making assignments, how to teach remotely. You know, I think we've established that, so that's why I still feel like it's funny that the commissioners like 100% were going away from remote as an option to deliver learning, when we just everyone had to make do with it.
But even for just a snow day like that, there's a lot of planning that goes into place. You'd have to make sure everyone goes home with technology, like you have to
Right. I mean, that,
anticipate
it
beforehand.
does, yeah.
And that's where it gets really kind of sticky.
Well, we've been honestly, I mean, we're getting to that point. A lot of times before kids go home for school, they know that they've got a snow day. Like, you know, it seems like we're getting to the point, a lot of times when there's a bigger storm coming out, like 3 o'clock, it starts hitting the news, cancellations for tomorrow. So, you know, I think it's just one of those things that I want to kind of keep revisiting eventually. You know, we're not going to make the answers, have all the questions or answers now, but I do think it's something to keep around for a little bit. Is there anything else as far as safety committee or anything else? Stephanie, do you have anything? She's saying no. Okay.
No, it was quick. It was a quick meeting. We're almost getting to the end of that too, I feel like.
Yeah. And then next is spring sport update.
Are we doing, oh, sorry.
What?
I feel like Carol talked about that, sorry. And I.
She just
lost
said
where
that
you
they
went.
were playing, but I just wanted to
Sorry.
touch base with
Yeah,
Ally.
Not a problem. Ally's not here.
She just got promoted.
Did you forewarn her first, so she's not mid turning her video on? and that? I'm watching
Yep.
out for you, Ally, I'm trying.
No, I appreciate that. We were arguing about hockey. I heard my name.
So we're just wondering, Carol mentioned that spring sports, you know, it's underway and it's going well, but I just didn't know if you had anything else that you wanted to enlighten us on for spring sports.
Yeah, the only piece that you should probably be aware of is the wrestling modifications came out. I did forward those to Dick Bombardier, the Board of Health. I did meet with Coach Speak, who is the Mahar coach who has 2 children on our team, as well as both of our new coaches, in an effort to put together a proposal to present the wrestling modifications to the Board of Health next Tuesday. 4 of the 6 schools in the Berkshires withdrew from wrestling. There is an email chain going on back and forth with a lot of the area ADs in regards to wrestling right now. They're not getting the support that they need, but there are some schools that are. So what we really need to do is review those modifications and see what we can do safely, and then present that in hopes of having some type of competition. But as of right now, we reverted back to level 1 and modified 2, which is individual training and skills, very similar to that of fall 2 for basketball. And then we added competition in, but the season's pretty short. I'll keep you posted
Okay,
for after next Tuesday. I'll send an email as to the outcome of the meeting.
excellent. Anyone have any other questions for Ally? Okay, back in new business, we'll move on to standing reports. Carol?
Oh, I do new business. Sorry. Only because I'm curious about adding a couple things to our next agenda, and I feel like I have to bring that up now. I ended up on the phone with Tracy quite a
Okay.
bit. And some of the things I'd like to talk about, and I reached out to you, Carol, about a calendar of kind of organizing us as a committee. Is that a calendar that already exists? That you're aware of? So I had said, I'd like to have something that, like, we know in January, we tackle this, and this. In February, we tackle this. I know that, usually we would be doing a superintendent evaluation, and that would happen during whatever particular month that it would happen. And I feel like I'm so new to this that I feel like I would like some more clear guidance. So when I spoke to Tracy too, she said that's definitely something that we could create at our meetings during live sessions, and then we could adopt it. But we would hash out pieces that we would like to add to it during a public session. It wouldn't be like a joint document that we would work on behind the scenes. It would have to be hashed out here. But I didn't know if there was something that kind of already existed with that.
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay,
So what would usually happen is usually Cheryl would bring it forward in the, as the time would go through, and Emery was so familiar with the schedule
Correct.
that, having been on it for so long, that he would kind of bring stuff forward. So,
that's why I thought it'd be a nice opportunity. So I kind of mentioned that, was asking her about like whether that's, she said that would be a great thing to do too with our current superintendent as an interim, but also that could be something that once best practices, she even said, was to have your new superintendent, even though they're not officially signed on the dotted line, it is good to have them start attending these meetings and coming into them. Right. Well, and that was my follow-up question too, is at what point can we decide, like my mind's 100 miles a minute, but at what point can we start having visitors come to here or being live with us versus being remotely? I don't know. Just,
I don't know, because there's still, the guidelines don't change until indoor stuff until end of May, I think, at this point, because this is considered like a public gathering. So I truly don't know the answer.
I don't either.
But I know that I think personally, I don't want to get rid of having the Zoom I hope that we can get back together to be able to be closer to the table, so that's a nicer looking shot. But I think that we're getting better attendance than we ever did with people coming in person, because they can have it kind of going on in the background while they're taking care of their kids or working on supper or anything else. So I think that's something that we can put on, but like to discuss, but
I agree.
I don't want to get rid of that pool, as long as it's, when you're filming them anyway. I just think it's a nice connection, and I feel like we're making bigger strides with the community this way than we ever had, with having maybe 3 people come in, you, Stephanie, and Kim coming in, Jill too, coming in, there's like the 3 or 4 of you. And I feel like this way, people can raise their hand, they can ask a question. I feel like this personally is benefiting us in a
I
much
do
more
too.
positive way.
I do agree. I guess that question led more to like of making that connection with Steven starting to come in, or if he wanted, I mean, because at some point it's going to happen too,
Right.
where he is.
So we can certainly talk to him. I would love to have him come in, but I don't know what the rules are around that, because he's not signed on the dotted line
Correct.
yet.
So, and that's where I was reaching out to Tracy and too, and she said that is a best practice to have them here if we are in negotiations with them, you
Right.
know. And then there was a couple other things that she and I talked about as far as, trying to.
So what
see
do you
where it
want to
was.
have added to the agenda? So the one concern I have with the calendar is that I don't necessarily, like, I would like to have a document that's built, but I don't necessarily think I want to have an item on the agenda every week for calendaring, because I feel like sometimes that might be, we can maybe put it under reports or something where it's every other.
It wouldn't be like, it'd be like devoting particular meeting that maybe like that is lighter, like today, to hashing out a calendar. And then maybe another meeting, if it's required, another meeting to hashing out, like, this is when we do this collaboratively, all kind of sharing when things would be happening. And then, like she said, we would then adopt it and then it's done. It would be a document that we then refer to if we had questions and wanted to say, okay, it's January, like, these are like things we might want to make sure we're looking at.
Okay.
And it just being like an available document for all of us.
So you're talking about like some of the larger pieces that we would do.
Correct.
Like be responsible for every year, like
Well,
whether.
Right. Just so that we're, because again, I feel like we are under such a microscope that if we're doing things correctly or not correctly, that it kind of helps to organize us a little bit of where we're at. One of the things I was talking to her too about, we ended up on the phone for quite a while. And as she said that she wants all of us to know that we can all contact her at any time. She would like to have an open relationship conversation. You know, if any single person on the committee has questions, that they can reach out to her, that is her job as a field director for us. And then she talked about too, because I was asking her about like school committee goals, which I'm sure you're familiar with, you know, and she said that it's something that, you know, once your administrator starts making his goals, you guys can do that kind of collaboratively. She was like, whether you want to have some sort of workshops or retreats. We talked a little bit, and Tracy is the one that's kind of the budget specialist, if you will, too. And she said that she had mentioned when she had reached out to Mr. Sullivan too, and phoned him, that, you know, even the superintendent can call her if they have any questions, not just about budget. There are different people, but, you know, she has superintendents who call her and say, I'd like to deliver this at school committee, but I don't want to break open meeting law. How do I, that she wants everyone to know for us that's what her job is, that she's there for all of us to ask any questions. And I apologized a few times because we were on the phone for quite a while. She's like, this is my job, like, you're not bothering me.
Right, so that, I guess that's one of my concerns is, so I love this idea, but I feel like we are kind of in violation, like how to, like, talking about this now that's not on the agenda. So,
Okay.
I don't think we're breaking anything that's massively, undertaking, but to me, that, I guess that's something I'll have to reach out to her about, because I don't know.
I actually asked her about that today, and she says it depends on how you have your agenda lined up. So I said that we have new business on there listed. So she said you can bring it up as new business, that this is kind of what happened recently that you are sharing.
Okay, so I had a different interpretation. I thought it was just like new things that we wanted to, like, to be on the
Next agenda.
not on the next agenda, but regardless, I think it's all good. So I think we should, for the next time, let's have, calendar on there, Jackie, and, I think that would be a good one. And, what was the other one? Oh, to invite Steve, but Stephen, but I don't think that's,
Maybe not next time, but maybe.
well, I don't know that that's necessarily going to be an agenda item. I think we can just extend the invite for when he feels comfortable. I mean, he's usually, I don't know if he's on now, but he's usually on, he's usually following along the meeting.
And I guess that would be like when we start having that conversation is when we would make sure to just include him.
Okay. Well, since we're doing it under new business anyway, I was, we'll just go for Brooke. I was talking to Jen Silva today on an unrelated matter, and I think what I would like to do, if it's all right with you guys, is I would like to put her on the agenda for like a select board and liaison report.
Okay.
And if she doesn't have anything, or she can't attend because there's a select board meeting or whatever, I just think, you know, we've been sort of stuck in a lot of back and forth. And I think if we can have her here and have some, where she can give us an update and maybe have some more open dialogue, that perhaps it will help. I think perhaps, because I'm not really sure what it is that she'll be able to report on, just like I'm not really sure what Cheryl, like my idea of what I would like to hear from Cheryl, she doesn't think that she's able to share. So again, we might run into some of that with Jen, but I feel like if we don't kind of put it out there and try, we're gonna be stuck in this position where we feel like we're doing everything that we need to do and we're not getting forward. So kind of what I'm thinking. I don't know, do you guys?
I agree. I think an open line of communication with the different players in the community is a good thing.
So we could add, select board, report, and Jen will be joining us, I should probably text her. Jen will be joining us for, executive session because she sits in on that, but I think that, you know, let's give it a shot. We can always take it off, and see if maybe, we can make some different kinds of forward progress, you know, maybe just being part of the meetings. And then that's the other thing I want to talk about is, do we need to have a select board liaison or a volunteer or someone to either watch the movies. What do they call it? Meeting? Watch the meetings or attend the meetings and kind of report back your interpretation on that. So we could be part of that same sort of thing. I know I personally don't have time to always go back and check them out, but if you have someone that wants to or thinks they can, and give us a little bit of a report out, maybe we can try to connect the dots a little bit. I don't know if that's,
Or even if it's a shared job, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We take
if, you know, they meet,
months
so,
or-
yeah, we, even if we're giving it up on this calendar that we're gonna develop,
Correct.
you know, one meeting every 5 weeks, or 5 times, might be easier to swallow, to be able to kind of, keep up. Yeah, to keep up. So, I don't know, it's just a thought that I've been thinking about, because I feel like, so here's the thing, right, to be perfectly blunt, I feel like we're constantly stuck between a rock and a hard place. For every step forward, we take 3 or 4 giant steps backwards, and I'm not sure what the problem is for that, why that is. And I don't know if it's because something gets lost in translation, you know, and I'm not pointing fingers or laying blame on anyone. I just think there's so many different departments, there's so many different people, there's so much going on that one thing can be said and then taken out of context, and then it becomes an issue where it really wasn't ever an issue. So I'm thinking maybe we kind of stagger this through, and maybe we talk about someone watching some of the FinCom meetings too, and just see what's being said, or I just don't know, but I just feel like we're at a stalemate a little bit. I don't think that's being helpful to anybody. You know, we're not helping the school, we're not helping the town, like, and everyone's just frustrated all the time. And I'd like to see if we can do to alleviate that. Does anyone know if the door is still unlocked?
I can go check.
Jen will be here in 2 minutes, and then we'll check on the door.
Which door?
So, I don't know, she'll tell us, I'm sorry to say, tell her which door.
Tell her to come to the store.
Yeah.
Yeah, tell her to come to the back door.
So anyway, that's kind of what I'm thinking. So we can have some. Now, do you think these things should live under new business or under standing reports, the things that we just put on?
So they're gonna end up being standing.
Yeah, because I would say for like the next meeting, it would be new. And then after we discuss how we want to set it up, and then.
So,
it
well,
becomes
the way
standing.
just looking at the format, we have Cheryl and Marcus as separate line items on there. So I would say we could do the select board one up top, like with Cheryl and Marcus, and then standing reports would be calendar.
Well, I think what Jen's talking about is adding it to the agenda under new, so that when we get to that point, that's when we discuss where it goes.
Okay. You got that, Jen? All right, you're the rock star. Anything else that we'd like to make sure gets added for next time for under new business? No? Okay. All right, so Carol, superintendent's report.
So I thought I would provide you an update on school choice.
Yes, please.
So our current enrollment of school choice is 112 students. We have 11 students, seniors graduating. So we currently have re-enrolled for 21-22, 88 students.
So when you say re-enrolled,
So
point of clarification, those are people that have already gone through the whole process. They're just saying, yes, we are coming back for the following school year. Is that correct? Okay.
yes. So we have 88 students re-enrolled. We have 13 new students. So a total of 101 currently. And we are following up with 13 current students to get them re-enrolled. If we confirm the outstanding 13 students, we will be at 114 for 2021-22 school year so far.
Can you, do you have a breakout of what grades those students are? Especially for the new ones?
I don't have that off the top of my head.
No, just for next time.
Next time you want to know what grades have been filled?
Yeah, I mean, I think Stacy usually, I think it's Stacy puts together that, like little, almost like a
Well,
spreadsheet that has it,
Yep.
has it out. We know that we are losing the 11 that are graduating, and we've got the 88 re-enrolled. So I just kind of want to keep track and see where
Yep.
we're at. Is it in those grades that are heavily populated already? And
Well,
kind of-
we don't have any open seats in the grades that are heavily populated.
Yeah, but there are already school choice students in there. Right? In some of the fourth and fifth
So
graders.
that would be under those 13 that need to be confirmed.
No,
she
the
said she's got 88 that are-
13 new are 13 new students to the district.
And then
Brand new.
there's follow up with an additional 13. What I'm saying is like, we've re-enrolled 88.
Mhm.
Of those 88, are they all in the grades, like we have a kind of a heavier school choice population in the
Mhm.
fourth grade, and I think it's
Yep.
fifth grade, or maybe second grade. I've lost track. I don't have it in front of me.
Well,
Third
they
and
have till the end of the school year to re-register, re-enroll. So, but we only have 13 that we're following, and I believe 7 of them are at the high school, and which would leave 8 at East Meadow.
Okay.
Carol, do you know when kindergarten screening is happening?
Kindergarten screening should be on the calendar.
I saw it on the sign, there's something about registration and school choice registration, but I don't remember the date, but it's on the East Meadow sign.
Okay, but just same thing, like as that date approaches, we can just add that as a follow-up question to the size of what that's looking like.
I'll add that down.
Thank you.
That would be registration, not screening, correct?
Yes, sorry, registration.
Okay. Okay, and the last thing, as I did speak with everyone about school choice, back a few months ago, I also wanted to circle back about the need for the East Meadow Capacity Committee. I wanted to let you know that Stephen Sullivan supports the idea and has recommended there be a representative from school committee and administration. And he has reached out, I believe, to Audrey as representative from the school committee, and Megan Shepherd, Director of People Services, to spearhead this work. So I just wanted people to know that, it is in the works.
I think that's really fantastic, because I think it's nice we have a good long window to be able to
Right.
to
tackling it.
start it. And I just want to make sure that people don't freak out. There is no decision that's being made. There's nothing. This is just, for lack of a better word, I'll call it an exploratory committee, like to really sit down and have the conversation. Because one of the things that I heard as feedback when we had what I'll call the debacle of the potential move from sixth grade was that people felt like the decision was made for them, and that there wasn't ever, like, the focus groups and things were really just kind of guided and maybe for show. And so I think having this committee where we'll get the right people, well, not the right people, I think the right people were on the last time, but getting people in place and really being able to deep dive and explore it before we have essentially like a year and a half.
Correct, rather it being so rushed.
Right.
Last time it felt very
Rushed.
rushed.
So I think that this will be a nice way to start that conversation, and I'm excited to kind of see where the work goes. And, there were a lot of ideas that were presented at some of the focus groups last time and everything that weren't ever able to really be explored because we felt like we were up against the gun, the timetable to be able to move to, that couldn't possibly be done by the time that we needed it. So I think that this is going to be a nice way to do that. And I'm really glad that Mr. Sullivan reached out, and, I'm excited. I think it's going to be a nice way to kind of move forward. And see.
also too, I think, with the president pushing universal pre-K, we're gonna, that needs to be added into the mix as well.
Okay. Anything else, Carol?
Nope, that's it for me.
Adam?
Yeah, I have a few things. I'll start with another, I'm assuming, committee that might be formed. So I'm not sure if people are aware, on Monday, the select board decided to take our 2 capital requests off the table for the gym renovation and the HVAC upgrades or enhancements to the high school. And the conversation will be around obviously forming some type of committee around, what next steps might be for the high school as well. So I figured while we're talking about it, we'll have a couple of committees that are going to address the buildings in the district, but I know those warrants were taken off Monday night at the select board meeting. So
the 2 capital requests again was for the gym?
yeah, so we have 3. Yep, we had 3. One was a new maintenance truck to replace the 15, 16-year-old one that we have right now.
Yeah.
Another one was we were gonna do gym renovation in phases. I believe it was 3 or 4 phases. We proposed phase 1 for next year, which was gonna focus mainly on the gym, bleachers, flooring, just enhancing the gym. And then the last one was, I believe it was like a little over $5 million to enhance, upgrade, whatever we want to call it, the current heating system in the school, be a 1-to-1 replacement of the units that we have now in order to, get rid of the HEPA scrubbers that we have in the classrooms now and be able to have kids in the schools come September 1. So the gym renovation and the HVAC were removed from the warrant for June 5th. And then there's obviously going to be some more discussion around future plans for the high school.
So one thing then, if we can't, so the capital request for the gym was also about airflow, right? To be able to use the gym?
Yeah, so, and again, we had conversations regarding, we had conversations around this, whether we should bring this to town meeting in a warrant, because we knew the larger discussion was HVAC and airflow in the schools. But part of the gym renovation, part of phase 1 was, airflow, HVAC, bringing everything up to standards based on all these pandemic related regulations.
Okay.
So again, with the conversation about an East Meadow building capacity committee, obviously, and it's again, something we have been talking about, but something that we're going to need to address.
So what are we going to call that committee?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
It's going to be the future use committee.
All right, so the concerns that I have right off the bat is with the HVAC being gone. And I don't know which way you want to talk about it, if it's on the gym side or on the HVAC side, but I thought that we needed to have some of that stuff done in order to be able to have the gym back in use in the fall. And then where do we stand on the HVAC flow for the cafeteria? Because I was under the impression that that HVAC part and that's probably me being misguided, or misunderstanding, but I thought that that was going to be part of that also. So,
That was separate, part of it, but separate. And that's another thing on my list. We had conversations this morning about moving forward with the cafeteria separately.
so it wasn't a true capital request.
That was not a capital request. We kind of agreed on our end that the school would at least fund the beginning steps on the studies and to see what the cafeteria really needs. So that's something else on my list that I will address. I just talking about committees and capacity issues and buildings. I wasn't sure if everyone was aware, but the decision was made at select board on Monday to take those requests off and then have a broader conversation about the future use of the high school.
And it's just regarding the high school future use.
This committee will just be, this version of the committee will just be to figure out what we can do to the high school and with the high school and what it's going to cost us. We'll probably keep the committee open for other municipal buildings as well in the future, but right now we will solely focus on what we can do and how we can.
So the committee will be an offshoot of the select board then?
It will be a committee that the select board appoints, so.
Will there be representation?
It will be made up of representation from the school committee, from school administration, from the select board, from the finance committee, from probably the maintenance department, and as well as other townspeople. So every stakeholder will be involved.
Okay. And when do we see this starting?
I believe we're going to discuss it the 18th, which is our next meeting, because we do want to get that committee up and running, because this is a problem that's not going away and it's only going to get worse, and we have to do something about it.
Right. So with those capital requests being removed and the future use committee, so we're sort of at a standstill for anything else.
Regarding HVAC in the school and regarding
Yeah.
the gym, which is what we propose. So regarding those two, yes, we're at a standstill.
Okay, so how do?
I mean, we were never, I wouldn't call it a standstill. We weren't really anywhere to begin with, but we can't move forward.
Right, so how do we then, if the school is going forward with doing something for the cafeteria, how do we do that in light of the budget situation?
So right now, it's really preliminary. We're just getting people in here to see exactly what the cafeteria needs in order to, yes, to be used with the new rules. However, it does tie into this future use committee and the larger, the larger plans for the high school. However, just like the gym, the cafeteria, if we don't make any changes to it immediately, we won't be able to use it in the fall.
Do we have any sense, or do we know, and this is to any one of us, do we know, does anyone have a sense, will any of these regulations be rolled back? Like, will the gym or the cafeteria be deemed acceptable with all of the lessening of stuff that's happening now?
As I know, only from speaking and talking about the cafeteria today, as the cafeteria is right now, we would not be able to move forward serving lunches in there, no matter what the restrictions would be. So it's a bigger conversation, but even when we were using it in the past, we probably shouldn't have been even pre-pandemic regulations. So there's no way for us to move forward with using that cafeteria the way it currently sits, pre-pandemic or post-pandemic regulations.
And this is not directed at you, but that kind of crossed my cookies is like, who evaluates this building to say that it's fit for use? So if we're finding out now, just because of the pandemic, that the cafeteria hasn't been acceptable to use, why didn't we know that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, and I don't think there's anyone to blame, but we didn't have the level of engineering studies done in here. We wouldn't have those done on a annual basis anyway. It's just because we had such a level of engineering studies done because of the pandemic, a lot of this stuff came to light. So there's no one to blame, or it's not for a lack of process. It's something that obviously we have to address going forward. But again, it is part of the bigger topic of the future of this school. Again, the talks that we're having are just preliminary. What do we need to get the kitchen, cafeteria? We say cafeteria, it's the kitchen, right? It's the airflow in the actual kitchen at the high school. What do we need to get in that kitchen in order to be able to operate and serve meals at that kitchen.
So it's mostly the kitchen piece,
It's the kitchen.
all right,
Yep.
but where they eat is,
Where they eat is okay, because we currently have kids eating in the cafeteria. So it's about food prep and food service in the kitchen area.
and that would be, like, codes change, things change.
Yep, yep.
So if we're not on top of it, we're not gonna know them.
And because the building is so old, it's grandfathered into a lot of those statutes and regulations. And I understand your frustration, but
So that goes back to my question that
Mhm.
I've been asking repeatedly to
Yep.
multiple people, is what is that magic number,
Mhm.
this whole grandfather nonsense?
Yep.
That we, so now we're talking about, okay, I just want to know what that number is. And someone just needs to tell me what it is, and I've heard it's, half of the assessed value, or it's a quarter of the assessed value, or it depends upon on the rolling average, I just want it broken out for me, and I really want it for the next meeting. I don't care who needs to get it to me, but I need the information. I'm looking at you too, Jen, if you know that, I know that it's out there,
Mhm.
it's gotta be out there, and so we keep talking about, we need to do these improvements, and we never get to the point where we can do them, because it comes back, oh, we don't really wanna spend the money. And either that, or the whole thing about West Street was a quack, and that, because every meeting that I went to is, well, we can't do this because we're gonna trigger the grandfather rule, or we can't do that because we're gonna trigger the grandfather rule. So I'm paranoid about that, and it was before I came on school committee, but every meeting I went to, so I'm really nervous about that, and we've been doing a bunch of work to the high school, little bits and pieces here and there. And no one will tell me or can tell me if all the HVAC stuff that we did because of the pandemic, that was several thousand, almost, several tens of thousands of dollars.
Mhm.
But those are permanent structures.
No, those are
Yeah,
temporary. so
exactly.
that's
Yep.
included.
But I understand,
I was told it was
totally
dollars-
understand. Yep.
Dollars amounts spent,
Mhm.
and we keep spending money to
Mhm.
get the high school up to date.
Mhm.
And then we had all of that crazy tenting and stuff in the cafeteria that's there, so we can have the airflow.
For
So
the
these
heat,
are
yep.
dollars and cents that
Mhm.
we are spending
Mhm.
in the high school that takes away from our ability to do it. And no one will tell me exactly how it works. And if someone, I'll do the research myself, just someone point me in the right direction, because I really need to know what it is, because it's frustrating to sit here and have these kinds of conversations of what we need to do to make the high school be able to work, and not know when they're gonna come after us and say, okay, you just spent $101,000 and you're $1,000 over, and now, by the way, you have to bring it up to meet all the up-to-date codes
Mhm.
and all of this, and then we're gonna be really in a road hurt.
I know you said for the next meeting, I'm assuming though, as this committee is formed, all that stuff is gonna have to be produced. Now it might not be in light for next meeting, but we're gonna get that information. Yeah, no, I totally understand. And
So
yep,
I would really like it for the next meeting,
Mhm.
regardless of the committee,
Mhm.
because I've been asking for a while, and I'm just gonna be not nice and just put my foot down, and I would like that by the next meeting. Whoever needs to get it to me, that's what I would like by the next meeting, just so we know where we're at. And how much we've spent, and just kind of a breakdown, a little bit of a report, please, on where we are, what counts, what doesn't count, because I feel like we're talking about, we've spent money on the heating, we've spent money on doors, we've spent money on HVAC, I just want to know where we're at. I'm tired of asking the same question, so I need to know where we're at with
Can I
that.
say something?
Yeah.
I just did a quick Google search and I don't know how accurate this is. This is from 2014
I was gonna say.
and it's titled Code Compliance Requirements in Renovation Projects. It says if there is no change, so in projects where there is no change of occupancy, the proposed renovation of a portion of the building that is equal to or greater than 50% of the total building area will require the highest degree of code compliance. So I don't know if that's still accurate, but back in 2014, it was 50.
So that to me is, we're dangerously close to that, because
We're dangerously
we
close.
put HVAC stuff in almost every classroom,
Because
which
of
is
that-
more than 50% of the area.
The
And we
building
did
is
stuff in
only
the
4.1
cafeteria.
million.
But that's a temporary,
They're not
that's.
permanent.
It's not
that's
permanent.
Permanent,
it's not
so,
permanent.
It's not permanent, but we're starting to talk about using it like it's permanent.
It's a different conversation, yes.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
I don't mean to be difficult, and I know I sound nasty right now, but I'm angry because this is the kind of stuff that's gonna come back, and it's gonna be on my shoulders, because they're gonna be like, well, why didn't the school committee chair know? And I'm here now on record. I want that information. I want to know how much we've spent. This is something that's really frustrating to me because I feel like I'm spinning my wheels on this stuff. And yeah, I've Googled some of this stuff before, which is, one of the articles I found says it depends upon the assessed value, and that's for more of a commercial use kind of a building and everything else. There is no clear-cut answer. I know that we have amounts that we have spent. I know that we have this stuff. That's enough on that topic, but I just want.
Yeah, because first said for the area.
So, you find one that says that, and that's from 2014, it's 2021, we have pandemic rules, we have all this other stuff.
I'll work with Carol and or Stephen or a combination of whoever to work with someone from the town, because it's town information,
Yeah.
to figure that out for you. Yep.
Chris or Stephen or whoever.
Yep.
But I think I would just like to have that so we can refer back to that, because other people keep coming to me to ask that. Like, we keep talking about these little things that we're doing at the high school, but these little things, like the stuff we did for the heating and stuff, that's a permanent fix that we did. And then sometimes it's like, oh, well, classified as maintenance. Well, we've been doing maintenance right along. This was an overhaul. This was bigger than that. So I'm beyond frustrated.
Yeah, maintenance will fall under a different category.
Different, yep.
And I get all of that,
Yeah.
but I just want the dollars and cents of it out. I want to know where we're actually at, because I have a hard time believing with all of the little things that we've been doing that we're not spending some of this. And now we're talking about we need to fix the cafeteria. We need to fix the gym. We need to fix the whatever else it is that we need to fix. And we have no idea, because I can't find anyone that can tell me we can spend $112,000.50 and we're good. But we don't know that. Maybe it's $87,000. Maybe it's 28 cents. We don't really know. And so I just kind of want it all out there so we have it and we can look at it.
I will have that for the next meeting.
Excellent.
I will work on getting that for the next meeting.
Even better.
Next, we were able to fill our 4th custodial position, albeit it's part-time right now. But actual cool thing, we filled it with a former student that graduated here last year. I won't mention his name just for many reasons, but we did fill it part-time for now. He's been here, I think this is the start of his 2nd week. We heard really good things about his first 3 days last week. So we are still looking for an additional custodian that can hopefully start either part-time or helping us out through the summer and then permanently for the start of school. But we are in a good place right now as far as custodial and maintenance personnel. So I just wanted to give everyone an update on that.
Quick question.
Yeah.
For the summer, do we ever use students? I know that might be different for a pandemic.
So, not in the summer. So to be honest, in the summertime, especially this summer with all of the non-use of the building in the beginning of the school year, along with all the disinfecting and cleaning, but a lot of things that we would do in the summer were kind of taken care of in the fall and the spring of this year. And in the summer, usually there's really not that much work for us to have a student. Now, if a student wants community service or needs community service, we can certainly help them with that, but we don't need their service in the summertime. Our 4 or 5 custodians, with the amount of work or lack of work that needs to be done in the summertime, we're good with our custodial staff. But it's not to say we couldn't use help, or if a student needs help fulfilling hours, we would certainly let them do that. Yeah.
They have them be the ones that muscle all the.
Yeah, yep, we can, yep, certainly. Yep. Again, the good thing about the school's not being used as much this year, like we would usually, do extensive refinishing or polishing on the floors. We're not gonna have to do that amount of work this year. But again, it doesn't mean we couldn't use student help in other areas. So certainly something that we'd be open to.
And we'll be doing summer school, so it'll be.
Yep. Yeah, so the buildings will be used compared to last year where they weren't, right? They will be used. So there will be that typical cleaning and maintenance that we need. But we got a head start, I should say. We got a head start in the fall, last fall and the spring on some summer projects, painting, cleaning, all that stuff was because there wasn't anybody in the building. We got a jump start on that stuff.
And then for, will we need to staff differently for summer school because of COVID cleaning compliance?
Staffing as far as what, like,
Because I didn't think that they were all on full-time all summer long.
they're on full-time. We are a little, we modify their schedule a little bit because again, it's the summertime, especially with the year that we've been through. We're certainly gonna help them out this year because they were at the top of the list of people that were stressed throughout this. But we are fully staffed. They do work full-time.
Okay, I just wasn't sure
yeah.
if we needed to, I couldn't remember if they worked full-time.
Yes, yep, they work full-time.
Do we need to do anything different about
Yep.
the schedule?
No, they are work full-time, but we do adjust their schedule for the summer because it's the summer and there's not as much work. So yes, they are staffed full-time.
Excellent.
The kitchen at the high school, we kind of touched on that. I don't want to get too much farther into it, but we did have a conversation, myself, Carol, and Stephen this morning, with a contractor who was part of the roof project last year, and kind of what the next steps are for the kitchen at the high school. So it is operable in the fall when we have kids back. So we're at the very preliminary stages of that, but we needed to start the conversation because even if there was construction or modifications or changes done that started tomorrow, I don't think they'd be done by September 1. So we're just trying to get a gauge on what that timeline looks like and what that process looks like.
Anything from Ken? Do we have any updates from?
No, so they were there, was it last meeting or 2 meetings ago? No, but I will include the April numbers in next meeting when I do FY21. Yeah, yep. But regarding free lunch, I mentioned this last meeting, they did extend free breakfast and lunch benefits through the end of next school year, so June of 2022.
Fantastic. Like, I think that's really,
Yep.
that's really great.
Yep. So I was working with Chris from Chartwell's on getting the 4th year of the contract all squared away. That was before this news came out. So then this came out and he wanted to change his projections because his projections were built on 2 years ago on a normal year. And we were under the assumption that we'd probably return to some type of normal model. Then this news came out. So he wants to base his projections based on this current school year. So he's in the course of doing that and updating the contract.
Okay, so I do have a question.
Yeah.
So would he base it on the entire, or would he base it on these past few months with the students being in school?
Yeah,
There's gonna be a
so
huge difference.
So again, this is why he's going to take some time to do that because I think it's going to be kind of a hybrid projection, right? Because now we have more kids in school, but essentially the numbers would probably still be about the same because either they were not in school but coming for pickup, or now they're going to be in school and we're going to be serving the meals. We might even serve more meals now that all these kids are back in school.
Okay.
But I would say it's going to be probably some type of hybrid approach to that projection, using the full year's data, but weighing, the last quarter or so when we've had full or somewhat full attendance into those projections.
Okay, because I know as the lunch would be different as in while the students are here at full capacity
Mhm.
than like the weekend meals.
Correct. But I mean, under the extension of these benefits, we are still able to provide meals for these
Oh, yeah.
kids over the
Yeah.
weekend. So,
Yeah.
but the logistics of all of it will certainly change and they may impact
Okay,
the numbers that he provides.
all right, because then I was just thinking going after this year and after next year, when we're hopefully at full capacity
Mhm.
and at regular business,
Mhm.
what that would look like in this sense, because if we're doing the contract out further than that, or just?
So again,
not
that's another good point, because I'll just refresh everyone's memory. Our contract with Chartwell's, it's a 3-year contract, but it's a 1 year with 2 renewal options. We obviously renewed. The state granted a waiver this year for any school district and food service company that were in the final year and the school district had to go out to negotiations. They could extend that current contract with their current food service provider. We did that. It'll be interesting now if they do that again for next year. Yeah, there's a lot of questions. I think there's still a lot of questions out there regarding that. But that is something good to keep in the back of our mind. And when Chris provides me with the new contract and the projections, I can certainly have him here to kind of go into some details on how he got to those numbers and what those numbers mean for us and for Chartwell's.
So my follow-up question is there would still be weekend meals, but is there still going to be curbside pickups though?
So again, that's a internal logistical thing that we would have to figure out. We can still provide them on holidays and weekends and essentially every day. If we're in school full-time with Ken's current staff, I'm assuming, I don't know if they could be able to do both, is provide meals in school and then the same type of meal service outside. But certainly something we can explore, because we obviously want to continue getting meals to as many families as we possibly can. And if that, includes still providing meal or curbside meal pickups, then it's something we'll have to figure out.
And additionally, right now there is still curbside.
Yes.
Correct, even though most of our students are in. Do we have updated numbers of how?
I can have, so Ken had it last time, so I can have him in their next.
But it was before we had gone back his numbers, weren't they? I thought they were March numbers, so we'll see.
Yeah, so again, they're kind of, they're staggered because we're working on the previous month's data. So I remember talking at the last meeting, the next time they're on, getting the data from April will be kind of a good indicator. Even though we had vacation in there, it'll be a good indicator as to how the curbside pickup versus in-school service is going.
Okay, sounds good, thank you.
And unfortunately, throughout the pandemic, or fortunately, at least for food service, we've been able to kind of generate a good chunk of revenue, where in the past, we get to keep it. Again, we're reimbursed from the state. We pay our Chartwell's invoice, and whatever is left is ours to keep.
I know it's small potatoes, but it feels like,
It's a big win.
Yeah, I mean, for a district like us, though, it's a pretty significant amount.
like 30, where we had a profit of.
Yeah, I think after the April reimbursement, we're close to maybe $50,000 in profit for this
I
year.
know, but
In revenue, not profit. Let me say revenue, $50,000 in revenue.
so that may change in the sense that our net, depending on what these 2 months look like.
Yep, because again, so now we're fully back. His staff is fully back. Food costs are going up, just like every other cost is going up. Labor cost is going up, right? So
But it seems like this, for whatever reason, this is working for us as far as we're not in the red, $7,000. We're,
Yep.
It's nice to see that we're
So
on the
here-
right side of it.
Just a recommendation on, we're holding it, these are food services, and right now we're getting reimbursement from the state. So this is going to change once we go back to what we
But we've
normally,
got one more
so.
school year.
So it's
Yeah,
interesting,
so
actually,
that's-
David and I were having this conversation. I've had this conversation with others in my position throughout the state, and I was surprised that they extended these benefits through the entire school year next year. And the conversations we've been having, it's going to be really hard to take these benefits away from families and revert back to a regular paid meal program. So it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out after next school year.
People will have been
So I think maybe.
counting on it.
Yeah, exactly.
I
Yep. So
think
it's in-
maybe on our part, we start sending out, like, just by midway next year,
Mhm.
saying that these programs will end
Yep.
and coming up with a rate.
Yeah.
ahead of time so that they're prepared, it's not new.
Right, because there are towns that get these free meals all the time.
Yes.
It could be as one of them, but it's dependent upon your.
So that's community eligible. Yep. So that's based on your free and reduced percentage. And that's an avenue we could explore. But yes, you're right. There are communities that do receive that. Yep.
And then, but there will always be free and reduced lunch available for families regardless.
Correct.
Right?
Correct. But so that's a good point. So to be clear, for the next year, they're extended to everybody. So we don't necessarily need families to fill out an application to see what their free and reduced status is.
But doesn't that count for other stuff for them?
So that's the other point. So even though we don't need it, we still encourage you to fill out that form because it does provide additional benefits aside from just free and reduced meals. There's a few different things that I don't want to get into because it's a whole, but your point, and I'm glad you brought it up, is we still will encourage when it gets closer to the school year, families to fill out that free and reduced application.
Okay, great.
Yep. But also be clear, they don't need to do that in order to receive free meals for next year.
It'll be everybody.
Yep.
will be getting that.
Correct.
Anything else?
Do we want to touch on the FY22 budget real quick as to where we are? Obviously. Okay.
And we have some clarity around those dates in that email that I forwarded. you.
Yes.
So that actually is good because we need to talk about public forum and
Yep.
the other stuff. So
Okay.
go ahead.
So obviously we had a meeting with finance committee. I want to say that was 3 weeks ago, maybe even a month ago at this point. We left that meeting. There were still some questions from both sides. The finance committee had sent us a number of questions that they wanted answered regarding our budget. We answered, I would say 99% of them. There's still one or two maybe that are outstanding. We then followed up, but obviously on behalf of the district and school committee, followed up with some questions of our own for the finance committee. That was done last week. So there was that email sent and then a follow-up email that was sent to the finance committee on these questions, and we still have not heard back from the finance committee. So it was my impression, and correct me if I'm wrong, that when we left that finance committee meeting a few weeks ago, that we were expected to present a balanced budget to the school committee and thus present a balanced budget to town meeting on June 5th. So because we haven't really gotten some questions answered, and there may be some follow-up questions that finance committee has for us, we haven't presented a budget because we're still at a little bit of a standstill as to the direction that we are going to go as a school department and the budget that we are going to present at town meeting on June 5th.
So in the email that we got from Jen earlier today, it was just there was just some other conversations, but anyway, we have some dates, so I'm going to read those out. So school must post the agenda for a public budget hearing no later than May 13th. And then school must hold a public hearing on budget no later than May 20th. And the last day to get budget info to Chris for inclusion on the warrant is May 21st. And the warrant must be posted by May 28th for the June 5th town meeting. So today is May 4th. So we need to decide when we're going to have our public hearing. And then we also need to figure out, we're having a budget and finance subcommittee meeting tomorrow morning. But we have a lot to go over. So we still have the matter of the $700,000+ deficit that we need to figure out. So what I don't know is, we have to have a balanced budget in order to be on the warrant. Is that correct?
That's not correct. We essentially, I'm not saying this is our position, but all we have to do on the warrant is give the town our budget,
Okay.
whatever number that may be.
And then they can go from there on what.
And then they can go from there. When we left the finance committee, it was suggested and we were advised that we should probably bring a balanced budget to town meeting. So those are two different things. We can move forward with essentially any budget we want. We were advised, it was suggested that we go to town meeting with a balanced budget,
Okay.
which I totally agree. We should go to town meeting
Absolutely.
with a balanced budget. I want to make that clear too. We should go to town meeting with a balanced budget.
Here's the issue though, is that we haven't heard back. I know you emailed again today.
So a couple of things based on the email and the dates that you just read out. Those were the first time I had heard that we were under any deadlines.
Because, and Jen and I had a conversation about this,
Yep.
because I felt like the information that we were given at the last joint meeting that we had
Mhm.
was that there weren't, because I feel like you specifically asked if there were deadlines.
Yep.
I felt like the information given to us was, don't worry about it.
Correct.
So-
Correct, because I even had said, I thought,
You got
for the
May
longest time, I
1st.
thought we needed, under Mass General Law, the schools by May 1st had to have an adopted budget. That was the only deadline that I thought we were under, and I asked multiple times, are there deadlines we need to meet in order to get to the June 5th town meeting?
So was Chris at that joint meeting?
Yes.
Okay, so anyway, we have the dates now,
Mhm.
we're playing a bit of catch up, because
Mhm.
I just feel like that may have been a bit of a disconnect between, this isn't a blame situation, I just feel like there was a disconnect between what Chris was hearing and what John was saying.
Mhm.
I think, because Chris was pretty vocal in that meeting, and I think he would have spoken up if he felt like we were being given vastly incorrect information. So regardless, it's in the past, we have these that we know that we need to move forward. So we have,
So the tough part is now is that we don't have another school committee meeting scheduled until the 20th of May, which is a normal meeting. So in order to obviously comply with Chris's deadlines and the town select board's deadlines, we would need to have a meeting next week, and we would have to decide as to what budget we are going to, and that's obviously not discussion here. We will have that discussion, but those are kind of what we're under right now, given the deadlines that we got today.
so today is the 4th. The 13th is the day we have to post by, and we need to have the meeting before the 20th. So
Well,
we have a meeting on the 18th.
Mass General Law says we have to post a public hearing 7 days prior.
Oh, shit.
That's, that's. Yeah, well, everyone wants to say it, yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna get so much trouble. Oh, I'm so mad. I just totally flipped out. Oh my God, I can't even believe that. Oh, that was me. It was Stephanie said it's on mute. You didn't say a word. Oh, crud. Oh my God.
So anyway, Mass General Law says we need to post a public hearing 7 days prior. However, based on the dates we got today, that makes it by the 13th, we have to post for 20th in order to meet the town's deadline for getting them a budget for a town meeting.
So when we say post,
Yep.
that's just like.
Advertise, just like we posted, we have to advertise that in 7 days, we're gonna have a public meeting, a public hearing on the budget.
So what I'm saying though is today is the 4th,
Mhm.
right? So if our next
11th.
meeting is the 18th.
Yeah, we would have to do it by the 11th.
We would have to, so I guess what I'm saying is if we can we have a meeting on the 11th as the public hearing, then that gives us additional time? Or do we want to say that we'll turn our existing school committee meeting on the 18th to public forum in the morning or?
Yeah, and we've done that in the past. We can
Mhm.
certainly do that. So we could have just a special meeting next week to adopt the budget
Mhm.
and then have the public hearing as part of our regular school committee meeting on the 18th.
Yeah.
I think we did it the last 2 years.
It's just because we're trying to cram all this.
Yep.
Right, and
That's why I kept saying that deadlines were important.
Mhm.
Because we have to be able to come to an agreement on how this is going to be presented. Right now, we're going to be cramming.
So I don't know if we're having a budget subcommittee meeting tomorrow morning.
Mhm.
And then I just don't know if we think that that's enough time to have a meeting on the 11th to present, and that budget you're presenting is to us, because the public forum will be.
The budget I'm presenting to the school committee for you guys to then adopt that budget.
Okay, so it's just gonna be a little bit reworking of what is already there?
Well,
Based on our-
because we have to come up with less.
No,
than-
but what I'm saying
less than
is,
100,000 left.
because we're not gonna have time. Because we would have to,
We're gonna have, I don't think, okay, we're gonna have time to, if we have a meeting next week to present, if the school committee meeting next week is solely for me to present the budget to the school committee for them to adopt it,
okay,
for us to then be able to have a public hearing by the 18th, for then to us be able to give that, we're gonna have time.
right.
It's what budget are we going to
Well, that's-
present and
that's the
adopt is the
time piece.
question.
So we would have to post on the 11th, the day that we're adopting.
Mhm.
So we would have to post that we were having it on the 18th.
Right. And so that's where I think, otherwise, we're not gonna make it, like, we're not gonna meet these
'Cause
deadlines.
then,
If we're waiting to try to reconcile and bring a zero deficit budget to town meeting, I don't believe we're gonna be
No,
able
we're
to
not gonna
meet
make
these
that.
deadlines. If we are just going to, because, let me go back, because
How
the,
about we rephrase it this way, is that
Mhm.
we will do our level best
yeah.
to get to where we need to go.
Mhm.
And let's hope that we can have the conversation with FinCom and, see if we can schedule a meeting with Chris.
Mhm.
And we have some time to be able to do that, but I'd say, let's at least make those dates our target dates.
Mhm.
And in the conversations that we can have offline, does everyone notice I'm using stewardess?
we need the exits.
But we can, but I think if we have that time, at least we have something to work
Yep.
towards.
Mhm.
And is it possible that we're posting for the 18th? Can the budget be altered from what we present to what happens at the public forum? If we decide that there's more work or something that needs to happen.
Once you adopt that budget,
Right.
at least in the school, for us, that's our budget.
So here's where it gets tricky, because I know
Mhm.
that we have adopted budget,
Mhm.
and then we've come back and had a revote on an updated budget.
Based on probably what's happened at town meeting.
Yes, so we present something and then if it comes back, if something doesn't go through,
Mhm.
then we have
So-
to change it based on,
So I feel like there is precedence to be able to change an adopted budget. So it would have to be another vote.
Mhm.
But I'm just like, I'm trying to fit a square peg into a round hole.
Mhm.
And give us a little bit of extra time.
Mhm.
So I think we present, can everyone make next Tuesday, the 11th? I mean, I think so. Stephanie, Todd?
I'm just checking. Give me 1 second. Yeah, I'm good.
So if we do a special meeting for the 11th and try to get through, I mean, we're gonna have a meeting tomorrow, we probably have to have another one to get through. I want to meet these deadlines,
Yeah.
I'm trying to look for like the escape hatch so that I don't know that we're gonna be where we need to be
Mhm.
by the 11th to adopt, so I think we might have to make a vote.
I mean, so to get back to your point, we're gonna try our hardest to be able to bring a balanced budget to town meeting floor. That may or may not happen. If we end up, making some modifications to our budget and reducing that deficit, but not being able to come up with the whole, whatever the case may be, whatever budget I end up presenting and is adopted that goes to town floor, at that point, either it's voted on by the town as adopted, or it's not voted on, and then we have to go back to the drawing board and see what additional cuts we may need to make. But as soon as, and again, I want to be clear that this is not the route we're going. We want to come with a reconciled budget. But if we present a budget at town meeting floor that is not reconciled, if the town votes on that budget, that's the budget.
Okay.
If they don't vote on it, then we have to go back and
So one
figure
of the
some things
things
out.
that I think we need to have for the 11th, and I can feel you getting frustrated with me before I even say it, so I apologize, is I want to have a kindergarten version of a narrative
Mhm.
of where the deficit came from.
Mhm.
Why? Because we were doing so good,
Mhm.
and now we're not doing so good, right? So
I mean, I can certainly give you that. Easily, I can say it now, but I can get into more details. Yeah, I would say that.
I think it would be helpful.
Yep.
When you're presenting the budget and then we're having the town budget, like, I have an understanding because of the conversations that we've had, but I just,
Mhm.
everyone's like, well, why? We're
Mhm.
doing so good. So I just think we need to have like the really sort of dumbed down version
Mhm.
of what went wrong and why.
Mhm.
So that we can have very clear, for the town and for the town people, for town meeting, I just really think having that.
So really, real high level just for now, so we don't have to get into it because I can give you this information, but it's a combination of reduced chapter 70 funding for multiple reasons, mainly enrollment. Obviously, that's the main contributor to chapter 70. It's a reduction in the required local contribution formula that the state obviously comes up with, and that's the town's portion of what they have to fund. So a reduction in that revenue, a reduction in the additional money that the town has given us throughout the years. It was 305, 12, 13 years ago. And that's been reduced significantly over the last couple of years. All of those in combination with rising health insurance costs, rising retirement costs, increase to contractual obligations and salaries, decrease in school choice revenue, which is one of our, and we've talked about this a million times, one of our main revenue sources that helps offset our operating budget, even though we shouldn't be using it to offset our operating budget. So all of those high level, all of those factors are contributing to our deficit. I've tried in the last couple of years to use our school choice revenue and circuit breaker and other grant revenue as much as possible. So we didn't go to town meeting floor asking for additional money. But that's just not the case this year. And I've said it before, and we'll say it next week when we get into the presentation. We're not asking for anything above and beyond what it costs to operate our schools for our teachers and some minimal discretionary costs to operate the schools on a day-to-day basis. But there are some factors that go into us, having a deficit.
So one thing, just real quick, for chapter 70,
Mhm.
that is not the same as circuit breaker.
No. Chapter 70 is the state formula on how we are funded based on enrollment.
Enrollment.
Yep.
And that is
A snapshot
a snapshot.
In time.
from
October 1
October 1.
of the previous school year.
Okay, so our number,
And I want, again, this is another one, October 1 enrollment of town residents, people that live, that are sleeping in a bed in Granby, enrolled in our schools as of October 1, that is how our chapter 70 is funded for the following school year.
right, so it has nothing to do with school choice,
Nothing to do with school choice,
has nothing to do with circuit breaker.
nothing to do with circuit breaker.
Has nothing to do with anything else other than the snapshot of total number of students
Mhm.
from October 1st of the previous.
Of the
year.
previous school year.
So it's October 1st, 2020 or October 1st?
So our-
2019?
So our chapter 70 enrollment for
Next year.
FY 22 is based on October 1 of 2020 enrollment.
Okay. And so
that number has already been reported.
That number's already been reported.
So,
So any number, that's 685 students. Any number that's derived after that is lower or more, is higher, does not impact our chapter 70 until the following year,
and it has to be from October,
October 1.
but we do make a report on a different date, like March 1st.
There's also a March 1st enrollment day. Yep.
So that number is maybe different, but that number is total enrollment, not Granby resident enrollment.
The October 1, and Stacy may know, let's not call her out on it right now, but Stacy would know because she oversees all the Sims, and David may know too. The October 1 and March 1 are enrollment at whatever category you're in, resident, school choice, whatever it is, they're reported on October 1 and March 1. But the October 1 in Sims, which is
Chapter 70 is Granby residents only.
for chapter 70 is Granby residents only. Mhm.
Honestly, I know you've told me that a million and four times,
Mhm.
but tonight it just.
There was a meeting where you confused me on what I was trying to tell you. And I was like, that doesn't sound right, but you had me convinced that I was wrong and you were right. And I didn't want to tell you you weren't, but yes.
Please, put me in my.
Yes, so yes, so yes, that is how chapter 70 is. And obviously, because of the pandemic, we saw reduced enrollment, which is gonna obviously directly impact our chapter 70.
Okay.
So that's high level. I can give some more
Well, we're gonna talk about it. tomorrow
details,
and
yep,
everything, but
as around that, yep.
I just feel like the more times we get it out there,
Mhm.
it helps me mostly, which is why I'm just gonna keep having you say it. So, all right, that.
I'm good, yeah, I'm good. I didn't want to take that long, so I'm sorry. I apologize for prolonging that.
Jen?
No, it's at the end of this month.
Okay. All right, is there anything else that we need to talk about? We've got our agenda items for next time. And are we just us for this one, or are we asking?
Us.
Okay. All right, we're going to vote to enter into executive session under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21, Part A3, to discuss strategy with regard to collective bargaining, as doing so in an open session may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the committee. The committee will not return to open session. Jackie, could you do a roll call vote, please?
Ms. Collette?
Yeah.
Yeah. Ms. Bartos?
Aye.
Ms. Shuda? Aye. Ms. Pelletier?